Campaign 2010 coverage from the UW Milwaukee. Our first candidate today is Sam Hagedorn. Sam, you're the Republican running in the 12th Assembly District, correct?
Yes.
Thanks for coming in. Here's what I find intriguing from your website. You said you recently joined the Republican Party, haven't run for office before, and yet you say, I think that's a positive. Do you want to explain why that's a positive?
Well, sure. Well, I guess I'm like the groups of people that you're hearing about right now where people are just excited. Basically, I've been a political couch potato where I've sat and I've talked with people individually one-on-one, but I've never been involved in a political campaign before. And I thought, you know what? It's time to get up and do something. If you don't like what's going on, you have a choice. Either sit back and do nothing or become active. So I'm out doing things. And as far as it being positive, what's good is, I guess if I was an incumbent, I wouldn't be bragging about the way the state and the whole government in general is going. So I think it's positive to maybe get somebody in with fresh ideas, not doing politics as usual, just going out and doing stuff.
Was there any one set of decisions or any one issue or the last state budget, the current state budget that got you involved and off the couch, to use your analogy?
Actually, Representative Kessler is who I'm running against.
Yes, you're representing against Democratic Representative Fred Kessler. Thank you.
And his choice, or his decision on the choice voucher program, where he would like to kill it. And no matter what happens, he's always throwing something, like in the last budget, he wanted to cut down the amount of money that was given. In fact, choice schools, which is interesting, their per pupil payment was down. And so every school is complaining about having money, we need more, and yet they pushed through a decrease, which makes no sense. And I thought, well, Representative Kessler doesn't have the right to decide where kids are going to school. So I thought, that's it. I'm going to go out there and put a fight.
Do you believe there should be any limits on choice, Sam?
No. Actually, the more I talk with people, if they want, especially if they want to keep throwing more legislative junk on them, fill out this paperwork, you have to do the same as the public schools, but they're not giving them the same funds. It doesn't seem fair. So I'm really open to eliminating the cap, increasing the per pupil payment for them. And the same thing goes with the virtual and charter schools.
Okay, there shouldn't be any limits on those.
No, I think, again, we're in a situation where we have to think so far out of the box, we can't close doors. And that's what people want to do. We've done this for 50 years. Let's do it. Well, no, it's not been successful in 50 years. Let's open up this thing and see what the heck happens.
Sam, you're running for a City of Milwaukee district. What are your thoughts on how to improve MPS?
Well, MPS, I think Dr. Thornton and Dr. Bonds are the right people at the right time to make changes.
You do.
In MPS. Yeah, I've had a chance to meet each of them briefly and listen to them speak, and they've got great ideas. Now, what needs to happen is we've got to get the rest of the school teachers, the school board behind them to make changes. I guess if I was running it, the first thing I would do is I would go to the teachers and say to the teachers, what do you need to be successful? With 15 cents on the dollar going into the classroom, that's crazy. And then everyone...
Of the MPS budget, only 15 cents of every dollar goes into the classroom?
Yeah.
Excuse me, I was just trying to clarify.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so 15, and so we've got to raise that. We've got to get the resources. I mean, the objective of education is to teach kids. That's what needs to be focused on. Everything else, it just needs to be secondary.
There's a plan out there. It's called a penny for kids that would raise our 5% sales tax to 6%, with that additional $800 million to go for public schools. Is that something you support, or
no,
do you not support any tax increases?
I don't. Dr. Bonds has said multiple times, we don't need more money. What we need to do is clean our house up.
I see.
That's what needs to be done. I mean, I talked with 2 teachers this last week as I was knocking doors, and being a school advocate, a school choice advocate, I'm obviously running up against a door until I start talking with them. And they start telling me about, well, I know we could cut here, we could cut there. So the people see where the cuts can be made. It's just nobody's willing to stand up and say, do it.
Okay. Well, if you go to the Assembly, the first thing you're going to inherit is a deficit, as you know, of about $2.7 billion over the next 2 years.
Correct.
How would you fix it?
Well, I think there's a couple of different ways. I think we need to control spending, first and foremost. We can't increase spending, so that will stop any additional tax any additional tax is.
So you don't support any tax increases?
I would say no, I don't support them, but again, I find it hard, you get a lot of paperwork when you're doing this. People say, would you support this? Would you sign?
Yes.
And I think, how can you sign something that you don't know what the answer is yet? I mean, we don't know. People have to look at the budget. You can't say I won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I would do everything against it.
Okay.
Okay. But so anyway, I think we need to control our spending and then look for waste in the government. I'm sure there's lots of duplication of services that we could get rid of. And well, I think once we do that, and then also the waste and fraud in programs, we need to eliminate that. And I think that we can take a big bite out of what's ailing us.
Do you think we'll have to cut spending in these areas, like for public schools, for health care, for aid to local governments, for our University of Wisconsin system, and for prisons? To fix the deficit, do you think we'll have to spend less in these 5 major areas?
I don't know that we'll have to spend less, but we can't spend any more.
Okay. Okay.
Say, okay, here's, again, and look for waste in those areas. I'm sure that, each of those systems that you've asked about could look and go, well, maybe we could cut out this. Maybe and they have to do that. Where I work right now, it's a transitional business. Things are changing. I work at a bookstore. We have to cut back. And so they're asking us to do more with a little bit less. And I don't think that it's an unreasonable request to ask government workers to do the same.
Well, let's talk about government workers. Do you think it's fair to continue the furlough program and no pay raises, and to ask them to begin pay part of their pension costs?
I think the pension cost part, they definitely need to be involved. They need to pay some of that. Okay. Now, the furloughs and increases, nobody's getting raises. So I don't think there should be, again, we're not in a position to give raises. Mm-hmm. So we can't. I mean, the government needs to be run somewhat like a business that way, where if we've got the extra money, great. But if we don't, we just can't make it and ask, the person on the street, basically, or this, the guy living down the street from us, to say, well, you need to pay a little bit more because I want to earn more.
As you knock on doors in the 27th Assembly District, what's
the 12th?
I'm sorry, excuse me. Thank you. 12th District.
Okay.
Thanks for correcting me.
No problem.
What's the number one issue that you're finding in the 12th District?
Well, there's 2 that are really neck and neck. The first, obviously, is jobs. It's surprising when you go out and knock on doors during the day, you would think, well, nobody will be home,
right,
because they're working. Well, they aren't working. And the problem with the jobs is a lot of people are out 1.5, 2 years. I mean, these aren't just short-term, oh, I just got laid. I mean, these are long-term problems. So we have to do something to create jobs. The government has to basically get out of the way of private business.
What do you think you, as one of 99 members of the State Assembly, could do to create jobs in the 12th District?
Well, I think we need to look out of the box. Again, I'm just so much in favor of that, where everyone wants to do it. Here's how we've done it in the past. I've got a couple of large churches that have bought strip malls, mm-hmm. and they've turned those strip malls around to be worship centers. A bowling alley had closed at one. They reopened the bowling alley. One has opened up a high school campus, and it's a lot more. So I think it's those types of things where instead of looking where we have in the past, again, if somebody wants to start a T-shirt business, mm-hmm. let's make it possible for them to do this. Even automobile, fixing cars. Well, if we can somehow help people start these businesses, we could do 2 things with that. We could obviously put people to work fixing cars, and then maybe work so that the people that have less money and need help fixing cars, they could go there and get their cars fixed inexpensively. Now, again, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I think we need to look at those types of, again, out-of-the-box experiences to make businesses grow.
What are the people whose doors you knock on in the 12th District, what are they telling you about the train between Milwaukee and Madison?
I've run across very few people.
What about you? Do you like it? Do
No,
you support it?
Not at all.
Why?
Well, 2 reasons. I'm thinking if you live on the far northwest side of Milwaukee, you've got if you take a bus down to the train station, that's close to an hour. Mm-hmm. So now you got to get up an hour early to get the bus to the train, pay $66 to go from Milwaukee to Madison, mm-hmm. with stops in between. Right. Find some way to get around in Madison, and then make sure you get back to the train station in time in Madison to get home, or you're there overnight. Yeah. I'm not seeing a positive in that.
I see. Okay, but what about our highways and our bridges? The Hone Bridge is crumbling. The Zoo Freeway needs repairs. How would you pay for the state's long-term future?
Well, I think
transportation.
I think keeping the transportation money in that fund would be step number one.
So you like that constitutional amendment idea that would
I do.
prohibit transfers?
Yes.
Excuse
I'm
me for
100% behind that. Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
You know these things better, the right terms.
What about raising the gas tax or the $75 you and I pay to register our vehicles?
Well, in Milwaukee, it's $95, just so you know, because we have a wheel tax.
I just showed you that I don't live in Milwaukee
Right.
because you've got a wheel tax.
We've got a wheel tax, and now the county is thinking about adding in another $20.
I see.
Again, we have to stop. You know, it's the regular person that's struggling to get from A to B, and we're in Milwaukee. They want us to pay $40 more for the same registration. You have to, and so we have to stop. Use that money wisely, and I think things will be okay. You know, in general, we're a positive nation, and I think we need to just stay positive. And instead of fighting, the Democrats fight against the Republicans, who fight against the Democrats because someone comes up with a good idea, and they're afraid to say, yeah, that's a great idea. So I think we need to work on solving the problems and not worrying about who's to blame for the problems.
One member of the Assembly has said if he's reelected, he's going to introduce a Arizona-like law dealing with those who are not here legally. Is that something you think you could support?
I would have to look at it a little bit closer. I tend to think so.
Okay.
There's different things that I don't understand. I have a grandson that goes to a small private school. This is the first year they've been involved in WIAA athletics. Mm-hmm. And then you've got homeschoolers that can't be involved in WIAA athletics. And yet, if we have an illegal attending a school, they can. And so there's things that we have to look at and go, let's try to make this fair. I mean, there are ways, I'm sure, and I don't know all of them, but there's people that are a lot smarter on this issue that can sit down and we can discuss all of it. I mean, we have to look at the whole program. We have to stop looking at just one part and say this is the answer.
You mentioned your difference with with Fred Kessler on choice. Are there any other major differences that you want to highlight between you and the gentleman who has that assembly job now?
Well, I think there's quite a few actually.
Go ahead, give us a few.
Well, he went to one of my future constituents and said, the problem with the state is we don't tax you enough. And I'm thinking, you're kidding me. You just bought a brand new Porsche. You live in one of the in houses that are $350,000 plus, and you're going up to, again, just a regular jamoke on this, and saying, hey, you're not taxed enough. And I'm thinking, you're crazy.
So that's another difference.
That's
choice
another difference.
And a couple other.
Well, he's in Wauwatosa. He introduced a law for the sexual predators, where he would like the state to set the law where sexual predators could live, and override with the local cities. And so I have part of Wauwatosa in my district. They have a law. He would like to tell them, your law is not good enough. The state knows better than what you and your elected officials know. So that's another one. And he's just basically soft on crime, and I think he has some issues, that he just got, I don't know if exonerated is the right word, but the Supreme Court just said, what you did was wrong, but it wasn't quite wrong enough to break the law. And again, it's one of these, when you read what he did, you think, well, that's not right. But it was all legal because that's, so he knows the system.
So you think there's some pretty clear differences between you and... Yeah.
Oh, I think we are on absolute opposites on a lot of things. There's very little that I've read that he's introduced that we agree on. I mean, he said at one hearing he doesn't, they were talking about the voter ID stuff, which I'm in favor of.
Mm-hmm. Having to show a photo ID
right.
to vote. Okay.
Yeah. And he said stuff. He said, "Well, I'm tired of hearing how smart the founding fathers were." And I'm thinking, Representative Kessler, you're a lawyer. You were a judge. You should have respect for these people. Now, were they perfect? No, but they sure set up a system that allows us to take care of any imperfections that we have.
Okay. Sam Hagedorn, Republican candidate in the 12th Assembly District. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.